Welcome, everyone. Peace and love from the Atlantean consciousness. This is Grandmaster Dr. Thor Templar, and as usual, I'm your guide through this putrid filth of reality we all live in. Your voice of Gnosis. So, what I'm going to cover today is a very interesting magical topic, and that is the terminology that the occult sciences use, which is justice and retribution rituals. You know, these are often called cursing and hexing, and these are very bad terms that are misunderstood. And it's important to use terminology correctly so people understand what it really is. And there's basically, as we discussed with what is black magic and what is evil magic, is two different things. And black magic generally is using negative entities for positive purposes, meaning you can use a demon to do positive work. That is considered black magic. Evil magic is when you use whatever to hurt someone, usually demons, and you are deliberately trying to hurt them for personal gain, for personal ego, without any justifiable cause, really. You're just hurting somebody because you basically are what would be considered kind of like criminal activity. So the whole idea is that there's a big difference, and retribution is just what it is defined as. And that definition is punishment inflicted on someone as vengeance for a wrong or a criminal act. So, I mean, that's quite a bit different than just, well, I cursed them. Now, cursing has this negativity to them. I hex them. And the same thing with moving that term even past retribution into a term that I prefer even more, which is justice, which there is very little in this world. And as such, and since when you seek justice, you're unlikely to get it, is that like everything else in the occult sciences, you are your own priest. You are working from a state of gnosis, or working towards that, if you're working out of your higher self, and whatever you do, you're doing for the betterment of yourself, which should be as well, part of the betterment of yourself should be for the greater good in general. So if you're successful being a person working out of your higher self, you will then spread this success and be a positive force in the world in general. The whole idea is not to leave your life to the fates, to whatever you want to be bounced around in the wind of life, flowed down the river or sewer of reality. You want to make sure that you're in a boat steering yourself as best you can and making your life better from a point of higher consciousness as well. And that's a very critical concept to understand. Now, the problem with being too strong and offering services and other things in this area is that there's a very fine line when I see others online doing this. I don't personally like it because it tells me the kind of people they are. And I don't think they're really acting out of justice and retribution. I just think they're nasty, evil people. I see people posing with weapons online and, if you steal from me, I'm going to curse you bad. And we do some of this as well. And I don't know. It's for many years, I stepped back from this and did not do that. And I didn't really curse many people whatsoever, or I should say do retribution on them when they really needed it. And I stepped back saying, well, I'm busy. I don't want to get mired into the muck of this. And I think that was a great error, and I no longer take that. As a matter of fact, I have a very large justice altar, which is packed with criminals and evil people that need to get justice that are not. And when people cross me and are nasty, send me evil emails or other things looking for fights and so forth, I'm well aware of who these people are and who they're connected to, and they go right. They go right onto the justice altar. And I think this is just a fact of life. And the point is, if you stand back and let people keep throwing rocks at you, you are going to pay the price for that. You have to build the shield, and when you place somebody on your justice altar, you are creating a protective field around yourself in what's called, and used commonly in the big cliche, the best defense is an offense. And I find that to be very true. So sitting back, just sitting in a castle with people throwing boulders at you or shooting catapults at you, will eventually knock your castle down. Regardless of how long that siege takes place, could be weeks, months, years, 10 years, but it will be under the empire. So it doesn't make sense, and unfortunately, it's very much part of life. And then how do you do this, particularly as an organization, without kind of looking bad? But we can't be too concerned about that in the ultimate thing. You can't please everybody. And we are a positive organization that doesn't want to deal with anything that is potentially negative, but it's a part of life that we have to deal with. So just as our traditional sorcery course has information on how to do this, there are bad people, and bad things should happen to bad people. And the reason why the world is such a mess as today is because for literally thousands of years, bad people get away with things. And the good people, when they have to handle bad people, always seem to stop very short from taking the ultimate solution of eliminating these enemies once and for all off the planet forever. Now, if this was done with so many problematic people, we wouldn't have a lot of problems we have today. So this is very typical. But in your life, it's the same thing. If an enemy continues to attack you and stays there, and if you're in a position where they can continue to do it, then that's always a problem that you have to deal with. And again, if you want to be left alone, you have to majorly disrupt your enemy. And we've tried this for years, protecting people, removing the curses and uncrossing them. Sending back energy to a little, and all this, these negative evil people seem to be very organized and very dedicated, and they continue to attack people consistently to the day they croak. So it's so doing protection is not good enough. You have to do the ultimate protection, which is an offense. So if someone is your enemy or someone is causing you trouble, they want you destroyed. And, this is not a game. And, you don't have to walk up to somebody and shoot them in the head to destroy them. You can destroy their business. You can destroy their reputation at work. You can destroy where they live. You can cause them serious problems. These people want you dead spiritually, physically, and everything else. And you have to make sure that you take very strong countermeasures against that. And of course, you should always be protecting yourself, building these strong fields of protection around you so that you are not affected in general. But if you know you have potential enemies, or you're going into a long, drawn-out problem with some group, organization, you have to go after them and pound them with their negative energy at the very least, you want to disrupt them to such a degree that they are in such a state of confusion that they're hurting so much that they stop attacking you. And if you're fortunate enough, you will cause enough damage that they will never attack you again. So this is a necessity of life. So if someone gives you problems or is negative, you need to do things against them. If you're at work and they're a problematic boss and they're causing you, this is your life. If you get fired or don't have an income, well, They just thrown you on the street. Is that a warrant enough to take action? Oh, it's just not business. This is your livelihood. These things are not to be taken seriously. Lightly. They're to be taken very seriously. So, if you're in a major confrontation with someone, and again, we are talking about retribution, people who are criminals, who have done you wrong, who have done evil acts against you. We're talking about justice here. If you're going to attack somebody to steal their wife or in some way get some egotistical benefit from it, whatever that may be, you don't like somebody, you're jealous of them, these are all evil magic. And as much as the black magic Satanists want to tell you there is no karma, that's completely nonsense and really isn't proven over the long history of this planet. And as much as anybody wants to think that evil succeeds, in the end, while there is a huge corrupt factor, particularly going on now in society, in the end, what really is running the world is a lot of corruption, which is basically someone standing there telling you we're doing all the right things and all the right laws, but we're really lying to you. So none of those things, and we really don't have maniacs and dictators who have been trying to take over the entire planet since its inception, and really that isn't the case anywhere in the world that much anymore. There are all these semi-governments, even in places like China and Russia, who I'm not sure are much different than the places like the United States. There is a certain level of people think good is going on, and a certain level of freedom and democracy going on there, if we consider that a high plane. And it's all under the veneer that they're doing what's right, not that they're doing what's evil. And we've seen this in so many different cultures who have done atrocities and then tried to cover them up. Well, if they were so good, why cover them up? Why not announce it to the world? Well, they know it's wrong, and then they want to, when it's convenient for them, come back and say, well, we knew nothing about it. So karma does exist, particularly individually, and it may not happen in this lifetime, but certainly when you reincarnate and come and recycle back here, you're going to have problems, and this is a fact. And there's no use going hugely into that subject right now, but you need to have justice within your life, and since there's no justice in the society, and since you have to determine, and the fact of by a person working from their higher consciousness, a person who is doing the greater good, what you do affects the world, and as such should bring justice to others as well. So they have better opportunities because you've taken care of a problematic person who now won't cause as many problems somewhere else, or maybe won't cause any problems somewhere else. But as I said, you need to be justified, or you're building up negativity. If you get into the fight because everybody's bad, and this is very typical of what Satanists do, well, the world all sucks, so I'm joining the other team. Well, that's a pretty moronic way of looking at things, and generally it doesn't work anyway. So you're not getting any great rewards from that. But the idea to reject something because it's bad instead of changing it certainly is the coward's way out and the weakling's way out. And generally, as I said, the rewards are minor at best if you get any. So, the fact that retribution and justice is a critical area in your life is something that you have to recognize and prepare for that. And we tell everybody that they should have separate altars for this, and we will be having separate justice bags, because the all-purpose bag cannot be used for justice cases because it's very a different type of energy, and it doesn't mesh with your common world practices. Protection, exorcism, all those things are in the common world bag that basically protect you and stop the effects of any. But it's not directed to generate justice and retribution energies, because these really don't mix well with all the other things. So when you start mixing them together, there is a contagion problem. But this is something within your own life. And some people have an objection to this, and I don't quite understand that, because our entire world is really based on the fact that we have enforcers out there to do things. Very corrupt, evil enforcers, otherwise known as judges, police, and the military. So people, and I'm not sure anybody says we should get rid of those systems. I personally think you should. I don't, they're rotting sieves of crap. There's no reason, we don't really need that. What's happened with these systems that were set in to maintain order and law is that they have now maintained criminality. They are the criminals, and they run the systems for the criminals. So within your personal life, you have to do these things, and it's a necessity if you run into a serious problem in your life where you're going against certain individuals who are attacking you, taking you to court, and certain institutions do this as well, that you can't just sit there and do success rituals and protection rituals, that you have to come out and you have to do attack rituals, you have to do justice rituals, you have to do retribution rituals to upset them as much as possible and stop them from attacking you. And ultimately, if you're under consistent attack or have a consistent problem, this is the only thing that's going to work. And I've been doing this for 35 years, technically 45 years if you want to count when I was a youngin'. But the bottom line is that you can't do enough protection, you can't do enough success when it really comes down to it. You have to go in and disrupt, cause confusion and dismay and problems with your enemies while you are doing the success and protection rituals, because it will be a never-ending thing. And the problem is you get into a very defensive mode, and that doesn't serve you in terms of solving your problems. So you have to go after these problematic people, and you don't want to wait until they're on your doorstep. If somebody's hassling you, if somebody's going to contact the guild and write nasty emails to me, well, these people are enemies. I'm not going to wait until they attack me. You're going on the bloody altar, man, and now you're going to get hit with it. Your negativity is going to be returned to you, and it's going to be returned to you with a little extra spin on it. That's just operating in a proper fashion. I mean, when it's amusing how government will lose a few hundred people and take tens of thousands of people and tens of billions, or not trillions of dollars, to go after the death of a few hundred people or a few thousand, which I find completely insane. But of course, they're doing it for their own particular benefit. They make billions off of these things. The ridiculous things like 9/11, to then take tens of thousands of American children's lives and butcher them and cause major mental and physical problems. How many people are, and the actual deaths tend to be down because of some of the equipment the troops apparently wear now, but that didn't save their legs and arms and their mental. So the whole idea is that we went and spilled tens of thousands of people's blood because 3,000 people were killed by nebulous people. We were not invaded. This isn't a thing about we have to defend our land. This is about going after nebulous enemies, which basically is the own government. People that have benefited from this have been Halliburton and the military-industrial complex. Halliburton, who charges $125 to wash one load of soldiers' clothes in the field. You could buy a washing machine for that amount of money. Literally wholesale. Maybe cheaper than that. But we're going to do that, and, everybody runs up there, and a few people get killed, yet, tens of thousands of people are dying every day from malnutrition, things that can be solved easily, or just basically in car accidents. In the United States, it's anywhere from 40 to 50,000 people a year are killed in car accidents. But, I don't see any great changes on our freeways. There's no war against that. But 3,000 people die in a fake bombing, and we have to go to war and spend trillions and everything else. So it's just, all this is just a big game here. So, but without diversing too much here, if you have an enemy, you have to make sure that you are putting up strong protective fields, and these protective fields are basically fields that are justice and retribution fields, and you can't sit back just waiting for it. So, everybody needs to have these kind of things in their lives, and part of having a core product is not only have the core common use bag, but you should have a core justice and retribution bag that you use for these kind of problems in your life. I mean, people are trying to destroy your life, and oftentimes this is right in your workplace where people are trying to get you fired, taking credit for your work. An instance like this just came up. I mean, they ruin your career. If they ruin your career, they're ruining your life. You can't tolerate that. And acting good and being good and putting protective fields around you is all part of life and what you need to do, but it's not going to save you from these scumbuckets who are continue to attack and harass you. You have to come out of the castle and you have to charge at the enemy. And what you do have to be careful of, as I said, is you can't get egotistical with this. I see this in all these other I see these on black magic sites and other things, and as I said, I find these disturbing because of the people behind it. And it's very difficult for the guild to say, well, we're positive people, and then have 4 pages of cursing information or justice information. It's difficult, but you've got to understand the nature of justice and retribution compared to cursing and hexing, which is evil magic done for personal profit, gain, or ego reasons. That is a necessity in your life to deal with these things. And this is not, and I don't consider any of these things in any way to be, quote, negative work. I think the most highest act of white and positive magic is the elimination of evil. And if evil is not eliminated, you get what we have today, a very corrupt, evil society where these kind of people prosper because they weren't eliminated. But as usual, some people tend to think that these energies are stronger, the energies of destruction and chaos. Well, I always like to tell people it's very easy to... I don't know anybody who can't break a building down. And how fast you do it and how quick you do it depends pretty much on your tools. But it doesn't take... Anybody can do that. It takes absolutely no intelligence, anything whatsoever. You can break a building down, you can burn it down. But if you have to build a building from the ground up, well, that's extremely difficult, and that's the difference between destructive magic and positive magic. And that's why positive magic is a little hard, because positive magic is about building and constructing things, which is a very complicated, sophisticated process, while destruction is an idiot process. You bang it down. You can do it with a hammer. You can do it with a stick. You can drive a bulldozer into a house that took 10 years to build and destroy it in 10 minutes. I mean, it's not really complicated. So, all of that is part of the process of reaching a state of gnosis and truth and knowing whom your enemies are. And the whole idea, again, is that if you build positive fields around you, you're going to have less and less of these things coming up. But, things happen in life no matter how positive you are and how least you do. No good deed goes unpunished is the old cliche, and I tend to believe in that philosophy, unfortunately. Good people put out good things. I mean, the reason why a lot of people don't help people, particularly homeless and other people, is because they're so afraid of these people, of their mental condition and their act. You take a family off the street, or a woman and a child, and you open yourself up to them calling the police and saying you raped them, you molested them, because they're mentally unstable, or maybe they think they're going to get something out of it. And this is why people don't help others that are in dire straits, and why we let the government do that, because they can take on that responsibility because you're afraid to do that. And this is the world that's been created out there. So you have to deal with these things in your life, and this is part of doing balanced magic, that you have to do that. And there are people, and these, as I've mentioned, these negative satanic types tend to be very dedicated, and they often are in large groups, and they're more than happy to attack others for whatever egotistical reason that is. They were shunned, you're an ex-girlfriend, you're in competition with them, so they're trying to kill you. So they put curses on you that are very debilitating. So removing a curse, if you have somebody attacking you has cursed you, is only a momentary solution, because they're going to come after you again. And this is one of the problems with curse removals that we do frequently, is that what is the next step here? Well, we remove you or protect you for this period of time, but if you don't protect yourself, if you don't get the necessary things that you need to continue rituals, well, you're going to be cursed again. And if you sit back and just do protective work, most likely the negativity is going to get at you again as well. Maybe not as strong, but they're going to keep pounding at you, and at the very least, it's going to hurt your effectiveness. You're going to have less success because of this, and that means you have to go back and start pounding at them. And this doesn't have to be done all the time, and either. It's like all magic, you can do for periods of time, check its effectiveness, and see what's happening. But the best defense is an offense, people. And, this is an old saying, and it's an old saying because basically it's truth. It's gnosis. So, if you don't have these things, you need these skills. These are outlined in the traditional sorcery course, and as I said, we will be making a particular bag for that in the future. And it is a difficult situation because, as I said, we don't want to be shown or seen upon as someone who's nasty and vicious for the sake of being that. So it's a difficult thing to portray, but we have to live in the real world, and occult scientists is all about gnosis, and we have to understand that there's negative, evil people. These are criminals that work against you. They're highly organized, and they need to be taken out. And you have to be merciless to your enemies. And when you start these procedures and these things, you have to understand that there is a possibility that people will take dirt naps. Now, magic can do this, has done it. I've done it. I've proven it myself. I've seen other people I've had proven it to. And this is how things work. So, if that happens to a bad person, well, first of all, there are spirits involved that determine, when you're working from a positive point of view, of how this level is distributed to people. So if something happens to them, they're evil people that deserve it. And it's not necessarily have anything to do with you in terms of ultimate results, because here again, magic determines the outcome of things. So, but there's a lot of bad people. And what happens to them, happens to them. That's not your problem. They should not have attacked you. They want you to die. They want to kill you. They want to torture you. They want to make you sick, your family sick, kill your pets. This is not a joke. So you can't have much care for them. But you also can't knee-jerk something that you just go after somebody because you don't, for egotistical reasons. And I haven't met too many people that I come in contact with and people that are involved with me in the guild that have that attitude. But that's a very typical Satanist attitude because they're very low-class scumbucket failures that are attacking everybody living in the world of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And, that's their base level of operating. And in general, even though they're evil, rotten people, I've not seen any great results from them on any level. So, it's the usual situation with these types. So, and I don't think too many people do this out of some joy of it just to unless you're an evil person to begin with, and then you're doing all sorts of bad stuff, so this is just part of the junk that you're doing. So, but I think everybody really understands someone who's bad and evil. And one thing you have to be careful of is in relationships, because, relationships tend to be very ego, ape-man based. So people tend to want to hurt other people that they break up with, and there's really no right or wrong in relationships ultimately. Both people are generally wrong in a relationship, and one may be more than the others, but you have to move on. It's a waste of time when it comes to relationships. I mean, if somebody hurts you and cheats on you and all the things that people think are so important, so what? They're bad people. This is a great opportunity for you to wake up and get away from negative, bad people you shouldn't be with. Not want somebody more. I could never understand those things. I could never understand somebody who wants to go and kill somebody who has an affair with the person that it is. Particularly men who want to kill the guy that slept with his whomever. Well, first of all, you and the guy have a something in common. You're obviously attracted to the same girl. The fact is that this person didn't rape them. Women make the decision to have the sex and get involved with people. Men are there trolling, looking for whomever they find. It's not their fault whatsoever. It's the woman who's done all the problem. And why would you want to keep that woman and hurt that guy? It's ridiculous. There's nothing at all to do with that. And the law of the jungle, which is the law of male sexuality in general, is that you get any conquest anywhere you can, anytime you can. That's the reality of the poison sexuality, which I will talk about in another audio. But that's the way things work. And in the male mind, the common male mind, you shouldn't be turning down any opportunity to get sexuality because generally it ain't offered everywhere. You get what you can get. So those are the type of things you have to be very careful of. So when it comes to relationship situations, you get rid of people. If it doesn't work out, move on. I mean, why are you staying with someone who doesn't want to be with you or cheats on you or anything? The problem isn't theirs. Because that's their personality, they're just scumbuckets. The problem is, why are you with a scumbucket? So you shouldn't be attacking people like that. That's stupid. Get rid of them. ASAP. And I see this constantly with people who are involved with losers and people who drag them down. And they wonder why their whole life sucks, because they're with horrible people. That's the one area to be careful with. Other areas are pretty straightforward. As you said, people don't have to assault you, hold a gun on you, rob your house, take the money out of your pocket. A lot worse things are done in the business world and the corporate world where people are backstabbing and cutting your throat. And these people deserve to get whatever negativity they can. And if you disrupt these people and they get fired or moved somewhere else in the company, well, you've benefited from that because they're out of your hair and they're no longer bothering you. And maybe they've been labeled as a troublemaker, so wherever they do go, they won't hurt other people. So that's why we do things. That's why we have courts and prisons. The whole idea is that you put somebody in prison so they can't go out and victimize other people. I mean, that's the theory behind it. So, but it is something that you have to deal with and you have to be careful, but it is a factor of life. You have to understand that you have to deal with negative people and you have to take strong, direct action and don't wait. The biggest occult mistakes that I've ever made in my life is waiting on going after bad people. You move fast. Don't let them keep pouring negative energy on it. Don't let them keep cursing you. If you know you have a defined enemy, if you know someone is harassing you or has bad intentions toward you, you move and move now. Do not hesitate or wait. The magic determines what happens ultimately. So you're not going to put too much energy on them and cause results that you'll regret. The magic will make it work out the way it should work out. So they'll get the justice, the retribution that they deserve. It's just as simple as that. So, as always, there is no reality until the occult scientist creates it. Question everything, believe nothing, question all authority, trust absolutely no one. Learn it, be it, do it, and let the guild be your guide.